Every year, 150,000 low-income, racially and ethnically diverse high school graduates do not go to college, even though their aspirations, test scores, and grades would suggest otherwise. Moreover, these young people are 3 times less likely to go to college than are those students, their counterparts who are middle income and high income. If we think about a decade, that's about 1.4 million students that we are not crossing the Great Divide and moving from high school into college. That means that they're not going to have the knowledge, technical skills, or numeric skills to get along in our rapidly increasing global economy. And without a college education, what does it mean? Well, if you have one, you're going to have higher income. You're going to have better health. And you're much more likely to participate in national and local elections. And we all know we need an educated electorate. So that means, well, what are we going to do about this? So for the past 5 years, we have been developing a program called the College Ambition Program, which we refer to as CAP. Now, CAP didn't spring out of nowhere. Actually, CAP was developed out of work we did for over a decade with 7,000 students across the United States, where we tried to learn what was it about middle income, low income, and high income students, and why some went to college and why some didn't. What prevented them from doing that? So what did we learn? Well, the first thing we learned is that a personal, strong, trusting relationship was something that really mattered to young people. And they needed to know that there were people in the school that truly cared about them. So we took the tenets of what we learned in our study and started to build the CAP program. So what's the CAP program? Well, CAP serves urban and rural public school students, not charter, not special schools, your average, low income, high poverty, ethnically diverse school that we find in the United States. Ours are in Michigan. We have a center. Our center is staffed by a part-time teacher. Why a teacher? Because we have learned that teachers are the most important people for helping to embed us in a school. They tell and they work with other teachers, and they have certain personal relationships with the students. Our CAP centers are open before school starts, during the school day, and after school. So what do we do in these centers? Well, we do a lot about course counseling. We tell them about options about going to college. We do a lot on taking students on college visits. Why? Because some of them who've lived 5 miles from a campus have never been on a college campus. We do tutoring and mentoring with undergraduates who are like race, right, come from the same ethnic backgrounds, so that they can visualize and concretize what it means to really go to college. And finally, we do a lot with financial aid. Not light touch of financial aid like an abbreviated FAFSA form, but some real deep work with financial aid. I want you all to imagine that you might be poor and low income. Now, I know that most of you in this audience probably did not fill out a FAFSA form, and if you have children, they didn't fill out one either, and you probably were not eligible for certain government subsidies. Well, think about what would happen if you were low income, and that was the situation that you were put in. You would not have a computer at home. The Pew Foundation has told us this. And basically, you'd have to come to school or go to the library to fill out that form. And when you would go to school, you would talk to a school counselor. But that school counselor probably doesn't know you at all. And yet you're asked to put some very personal information about yourself on that form. All of that, I would tell you, just reifies what it means to be low income and minority in the United States. So that's what we do in CAP. Now, those of you sitting in the audience will say to yourself, so does it work? Does it matter? And I'm a researcher, and that's what I do for my life. I spend time figuring out, does it matter? So we're in 13 high schools right now. What we did is we used state administrative data to find 51 other high schools that looked very much like our 13 high schools. And then with a variety of different kinds of statistics, we then went and started to look at the difference in college-going rates between our students and the students that were in what we call our control schools. And what did we find? Well, the first thing is that we see there's an 8% difference, which means roughly about 8 out of 100 high school graduates in a single year will go on to college. That's what we call a modest effect. It isn't one that's going to make the headlines in the papers, but nonetheless, we worked with 1,000 students, and our 1,000 students gave us 80 kids. And these 80 students, I'm very happy to say, are going to places like Michigan State University, University of Michigan, Ohio State, and Cornell. But the majority of these 80 are in community colleges. Why? Because the financial problems are very real to low-income and minority students. They're very real. So what does this really all mean? Well, for me it is the truth of it. It's very hard to work in some of the most problematic schools in the United States, especially in secondary schools. It takes a lot of courage, and you have to be willing to say, oh my goodness, you're going to only have a modest effect. We're not going to change the world. But the reality is, we work not on light touches, not in abbreviated FAFSA forms or information to parents that basically is telling them about college when they already knew about it. We are working in situations where we believe you need a personal, caring relationship. We have to work in a whole school environment. So we're not about light touches. We're about sturdy, strong supports. Thank you very much.